By the Miami Heat tonight in Philadelphia. They have a nice little roster, and you heard from Terry Rozier. It's just a weight lifted off our shoulders. The players, what is it like dealing with that? I don't know, you guys, Mully, maybe you have a little more experience of dealing with a locker room that may be disgruntled or a player wanting out. Now, Fez, you played on some golden teams there. But, Mully, you know what it's like to be in a locker room when a player's disgruntled. What is it like for Terry Rozier and company down in Miami?
The unique situation here, Bonte and Festus, is Jimmy Butler wasn't with the team. So they're basically adding players to a roster where there was no one there because Jimmy Butler's been suspended, and they've been playing good basketball. So I think Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, the ultimate professionals, and they keep their players locked in at the task at hand. So they're inheriting Andrew Wiggins, Slow-Mo, and who else did they get?
And the pick.
But those two players are coming in to help that
PJ Tucker?
To help that young roster that's been playing good basketball. So it's not like Jimmy Butler was a main cog in their roster, in their team, and they dealt him. That's what the Warriors are dealing with. They're dealing with losing, this year probably their best player outside of Steph in Andrew Wiggins, and then trying to reacclimate Jimmy Butler to their team.
The Miami Heat got better. This team is very dangerous. They've always been in the mix. They're the gritty team. They practice all year long. They play hard the whole season. You saw them come here on a back-to-back after a 2-overtime game in Sacramento. Came up here to beat the Warriors. This is a team that's always going to play hard, but now they've added some talent to it. Andrew Wiggins being there in their lineup is going to be great. Think about Bam and Andrew Wiggins on the defensive end.
Yeah.
In the East, they might surprise some people in the playoffs.
I think they will.
Now, on the other hand, you got the Warriors trying to acclimate now. It's going to turn quick. This is a really tough game for the Warriors. This was a tough loss. They lost it on different fronts. Defensively, they're at the last four minutes, fouling, getting guys to the free throw line. These are things that the Warriors need to get better. I think Jimmy will help them some at the end of the game.
Wiggins on a team-friendly deal, too.
He was a great player for the Warriors. Yep. Underrated player on the court. I thought his personality was the ultimate fit for this team. But analytically, Jimmy Butler. Now, I'm not talking about the flow of the game, but analytically, two things the Warriors are not good at that he can add. Layup making and free throws.
No doubt.
Now, that you still have to have the rhythm and flow, but those two things, they're really at the low end of the NBA. Jimmy Butler's elite at both of those categories.
Career 84% free throw shooter, Jimmy Buckets, that is. So that'll help the Golden State Warriors. Let's hear from Steve Kerr after the loss, presented by BMW.
Steve, how hard was the pregame meeting with the players?
I don't think am I allowed to talk about this or no?
Not about the trade. He can't acknowledge it. It hasn't happened yet.
I mean, different mood to this game, I guess we can say. You only had 10 players, I guess, or 9 or however many. Did it feel different?
Yeah, it always feels different. I think the league should consider making the trade deadline, at the All-Star break, just so you don't have to face these games where guys are getting traded half an hour before and a game and, you're trying to process the emotions and trying to win a game. I don't know if it's possible, but it'd be great if we could move it back to or make the last couple of days, before the deadline, like off day. I don't know how to do it, but these are tough days for sure.
I know you can't talk about like the specifics of the trade, but clearly you were having some conversations with guys pregame. I mean, I guess why did you choose to be the one that seemed to go around it? I guess break.
Can I talk about this?
That's probably fine. Yeah, that's fine. You can talk about that.
I'm the coach. I mean, so stuff like this happens. That's my job. Yeah.
And I mean, what did you see within the emotions of your team?
Well, we got off to a terrible start, but bounced back, and I thought played a pretty solid game until the last 3 minutes. You look at the stats, and it's yet another NBA game that makes no sense to me. We have 33 assists and 9 turnovers, and we make 17 threes, and we lose to a team that's 12 and 37. They scored 20 points in the last 3 minutes, and so this game has gotten so crazy. Everybody is capable of putting up 20 points in 3 minutes if it comes to it. And so, overall we played a pretty solid game. We weren't great, but we took care of the ball for the most part. and had control of the game, 10-point lead in the final minutes, and lost. So it's a tough one, another tough one. There have been a lot of these this year, and brutal loss. But we got to move on. We got another game tomorrow night, and we've got to process everything that happened today and move forward.
What happened in the last 3 minutes?
No doubt. It was a tough loss to the Utah Jazz, but you could see Steve's body language there. He was disheveled by what transpired right before the game, and the Warriors moving on from Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, Dennis Schroeder, and Lindy Waters III. So pretty blunt reaction for Steve Kerr. He can't touch on the trade right now because it's not finalized, but you can tell by his emotions there. He's hurt right now, losing Andrew Wiggins and company.
I mean, Bonte, you got to think about it. We talk about it like it's business and all, but these are personal relationships. Yep. And I've been in a locker room where guys were traded, and there were tears flowing. And in the middle of that, you got to go play a game and win a game. This happened right before the game. They didn't even have the lineups for the starting lineup. Guys are trying to figure that out and wiping away the tears as they get on the court. So this is the human part of the game. Yes, you got to go play and there's business. But, I actually commend the team for coming out and playing the way they did. And, they lost the game. It's really hard to be critical about a team like that.
Yeah, Steve Kerr, one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. But he's got tremendous perspective. And I think it's I like what he said. The timing is really tough. So to be able, like, we saw the Luka trade, right? Everyone's so surprised about it. But when you have time to get to the guy, you can do the trade, but have time to get to that person individually so you can go face to face. Right before the game, it's really awkward, right? The guys are in the building. You got Dennis Schroeder, who's literally traded down the hallway. So have a little bit better timing, and the way you do things does matter.
Andrew Wiggins was literally warming up on the Delta Center floor after playing solid game the other night against Orlando, and he's gone bye-bye. Thanks for the memories, Andrew Wiggins. We'll talk more about Jimmy Butler and his massive deal for the Golden State Warriors. They acquired Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat and extend him for 2 years, $112 million.
Adebayo matching his way into Horford. Shot clock at 3. Butler with Brogdon on him. It's a long 3. And good! Oh, Jimmy frickin' Butler puts it in! Woo!
Kevin Harlan on the call for TNT Sports. Jimmy Butler was iconic in that series against the Boston Celtics. You see his playoff resume. 21 a game, 6 rebounds, nearly 5 assists, shoots 46% from the floor and 35 from 3. 2 NBA Finals appearances. Of course, they lost to the LA Lakers in one of the series and the Denver Nuggets in the other one. But Jimmy has definitely performed at a high level in the playoffs. Now, you just have to get to the playoffs. So right now, if the playoffs started today, the Warriors would not be participating in that. So they make a move, and you said it, Bully. It's a win-now move. Fezzi, you mentioned this as well. It's a win-now move as the Warriors try to maximize the window of Steph and Curry. So they bring in Jimmy Butler. They align his deal with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. And there you have it. Jimmy Butler, after all the shenanigans we've talked about, is headed right in our backyard right here in the Bay Area.
Well, here's my question, Bonte. How does it help the Warriors offensively? Because what I understand is when you have Steph Curry, you need shooting around him. So the Warriors have a little bit of problem that they have, where you still have Steph Curry struggling because the shooting and the floor spacing is not there. So the Warriors are going to have to figure that out, especially at the end of the game. You can have Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green probably go 4 and 5 and go super small at the end of games, and then you can post them up and do what you need to do. But there's still a little bit of questioning, and for the Warriors, they still have a little bit of space to fill. Maybe if you can answer that question with a space 5, so a guy that can get out to the three-point line and really get some shots up. You could get a point guard, another guy who can handle the ball, get both of those guys off the ball, both Steph and Jimmy Butler. So some questions to still be answered right now for the Warriors in this roster, but you could tell from Steve Kerr's reaction earlier, he's really he's in the middle of it. He's a guy who's a former player, a coach that really cares about his players, and the guy who really cares about his roster.
Yeah, we have till noon tomorrow to the trade deadline, so that may happen. They may bring in a stretch big. But as Fezzi said, no question about Jimmy Butler's ability as an individual player. His success in the regular season and in the playoffs is already established. We saw the great awards he had. But this is a unique system that Steve Kerr runs. It's a read and react system, motion, passing game, 0.5 basketball. I don't think Jimmy Butler has played that in his entire career. Not saying that he can't, but I think it's going to be more trying to play both styles within one game. And there's a way to do it, but it takes time. You would rather have a training camp to implement that stuff. But again, I go back to a game like tonight, and the Warriors have played several games like that this year. 3 minutes left. Then you want to slow the game down, almost at a playoff pace. Put it in Jimmy Butler's hands, mid-post, run some action. It's not there, draw a foul, get an easy bucket. Then you're not going to have a 10-point comeback in the last 3 minutes if you slow the game down. But again, I also think about him playing with Draymond Green, the spacing. You have to incorporate Jonathan Kuminga. Andrew Wiggins was moved to open up space for Jonathan Kuminga. That has to work now. That's been a problem. We've heard Steve Kerr say Kuminga was a 4. Draymond said he's a 3. Now it's Jimmy Butler. So figuring that out in a short amount of time is going to be a major challenge. Not saying it's not doable for Steve Kerr and his staff. And that's why the other thing, too, is Steve Kerr, you can see there's a lot going on. He's processing it. I know this. He loved Andrew Wiggins. Yep. And not just for his two-way play, the low maintenance. Andrew Wiggins was an incredible guy, incredible teammate to have on that team just because he was quiet, humble, unassuming. And when you're in a locker room with stars, it's important to have players like that play like stars but kind of blend in. And I think that's an underrated part of Andrew Wiggins' legacy.
Okay, I'm going to say what you can't say as the dignitary that you are, Chris Mullin. Jimmy Butler, coming from where he's coming from, whether it's with the Miami Heat or the Philadelphia 76ers or even Minnesota, you've seen him as a superstar. And for him to be able to fit on the Warriors roster, it can't be the superstar Jimmy Butler coming to this roster.
We already have that.
What's that?
We already have that.
You already have the superstar?
Steph Curry. We already have that.
You already have the superstar in Steph Curry. So you got to come in as a player to come support this staff. And then you got to think about it. Think about the guys that have come in. Whether it was Kevin Durant, whether it was, Andrew Wiggins coming in. These guys came in to uplift, and they played in the system, and they thrived. They actually got better in the system. So that's what you want to see with a guy coming into this roster. I'm still trying to figure out the numbers of how you sign an extension, because there was rumors that he didn't want to sign an extension here, and then you see the numbers. So the journalist in me is trying to figure out how these numbers work, because Jonathan Kuminga at some point couldn't get these. So it's a lot of things to figure out right now. A lot of things, speculations and things. But for the Warriors right now, this move is made. It's done already. It's rare to look at this stat sheet and see trade pending, and a bunch of names. But these are the things that you have to work through in the NBA season.
The biggest thing for me, fellas, 35 years old, injuries over the last 4 years. Now, he gets to the playoffs and he thrives, no doubt. But this team already has Steph. He's going to be 37 in March. Draymond Green's going to be 35 soon. Now you pick up another 35-year-old and you extend him for 2 years and $112 million. It seems a little strange to me when Steve Kerr a couple of weeks ago said, hey, look, this is a young man's game. We need younger players. You need guys. And look at tonight against Utah. Keontae George down the stretch. Jordan Clarkson has young legs, fresh legs. And that's been the problem for this team all season long, running into these younger, athletic teams. Even Toronto, who can't win a game to save their lives. You look at their roster and say, boy, they match up well with the Warriors because of their length, athleticism, and age. And the Warriors got older here, where Andrew Wiggins was just playing probably in his prime.
Yeah, and you mentioned Minnesota, Philly, and Chicago with Jimmy Butler, all incredible performances by him at those organizations. All ended a little unceremoniously, to say the least. But, I watched Luka Doncic's post press conference yesterday. He was shocked. He also said it's going to be a wake-up call. It's motivation for him to get his off the court, get his condition together. Pat Riley is one of the most accomplished players, executives, coaches of all time in the NBA history. Hopefully Jimmy Butler, after leaving there, can learn something from this experience and make adjustments and make a few changes to fit into this Warrior organization.
Right.
That would do him really well.
A little NBA drama to end this deadline, huh?
Man,
let's go.
Drama.
We got
Straight deadline, man.
What do we have? 18 hours left?
Yeah, how many hours do we have? Taylor, my math's bad. I didn't go to
15.
Vanderbilt. We got 15? We just got to St. John's?
3.
All right, we're going to go around the association. De'Aaron Fox made his debut with the San Antonio Spurs, and Zach LaVine right now is playing at the Golden One Center. We'll check in on the Kings and the